The encounter on the frozen wasteland. The icy winds of Cryo 7 howled across the desolate landscape, a frozen wasteland where the sun barely kissed the horizon. The planet was a barren expanse of jagged ice peaks, deep crevices, and endless stretches of snow. It was a place forgotten by time, a relic of a failed colonization attempt decades ago. Now, it served as a remote outpost for a handful of humans tasked with maintaining an abandoned research facility. Among them was Dr. Cale Arlen, a scientist and engineer who had volunteered for the lonely assignment. For Cale, Cryo 7 was a refuge from a troubled past, a place where he could lose himself in his work and the silence of the void. Cale's days were monotonous, filled with routine checks on the facility's failing systems and occasional repairs to the drones that patrolled the perimeter. The facility itself was a sprawling complex of steel and glass, buried deep within a mountain to shield it from the planet's harsh climate. It was a relic of humanity's early attempts at interstellar exploration, now reduced to a shadow of its former glory. One evening, as Cale suited up for his daily perimeter check, the facility's sensors picked up an unusual energy signature. It was faint, barely noticeable, but it was enough to pique his curiosity. Grabbing his toolkit and a portable scanner, he ventured out into the freezing wilderness. The wind bit at his exposed skin, and the snow crunched beneath his boots as he followed the signal. After an hour of trudging through the icy terrain, Cale stumbled upon something that made his heart race. Nestled in a shallow crater was a small alien pod, its surface covered in intricate patterns that glowed faintly in the dim light. The pod was partially buried in the snow, and Cale could see that it had been damaged upon landing. He approached cautiously, his scanner buzzing with activity. As he got closer, he noticed movement inside the pod. Through a cracked viewport, he saw a figure, a humanoid alien with shimmering, opalescent skin and large, luminous eyes. The alien was trapped, its limbs bound by glowing energy restraints that pulsed with an eerie light. Cale's training kicked in, and he quickly assessed the situation. The alien was alive but weak, and the restraints seemed to be draining its energy. Against his better judgment, Cale decided to free the alien. He knew the risks. Contact with an unknown species could have dire consequences, but something about the creature's plight stirred a deep sense of empathy within him. Using his tools, he carefully disabled the restraints, his hands trembling from both the cold and the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The moment the restraints deactivated, the alien slumped forward, its body limp. Cale caught it before it could hit the ground, surprised by how light it felt. The alien's skin was warm to the touch, a stark contrast to the freezing environment. It murmured something in a language Cale couldn't understand, its voice soft and melodic. Cale carried the alien back to the facility, his mind racing with questions. Who was this creature? Where had it come from? And why had it been imprisoned? He set up a makeshift infirmary in one of the facility's labs, using what little medical equipment he had to tend to the alien's injuries. Over the next few days, the alien slowly regained its strength, and Cale did his best to communicate with it. The alien, whom Cale named Luma, due to its radiant appearance, was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Its intelligence was evident in the way it observed its surroundings and interacted with the technology in the lab. Despite the language barrier, Cale and Luma developed a rudimentary form of communication using gestures and drawings. Luma's presence brought a strange sense of purpose to Cale's life on Cryo 7. The alien's curiosity about human technology was matched only by Cale's fascination with Luma's advanced knowledge. Together, they began repairing the facility's systems, using a combination of human ingenuity and alien expertise. But as the days turned into weeks, Cale couldn't shake the feeling that Luma's arrival was no accident. The alien's pod had been damaged, but it was clear that it had been targeted. The energy restraints were not just a means of imprisonment. They were a message. Someone, or something, had wanted Luma silenced. One morning, Cale woke to find Luma gone. The alien had left without a trace, leaving behind only a faint, glowing symbol etched into the wall of the lab. Kale stared at the symbol, a mix of emotions swirling within him. He felt a profound sense of loss, but also a glimmer of hope. Luma had shown him that there was more to the universe than the cold, empty void of Cryos 7. Little did Kale know, Luma's departure was only the beginning. The alien had left something behind, a gift that would change Cal's life forever and set him on a path he could never have imagined. The gift of the stars. Kale stood in the lab, staring at the glowing symbol Luma had left behind. It was an intricate pattern of lines and curves, pulsing faintly with a soft, golden light. He reached out to touch it, and as his fingers brushed the surface, the symbol began to shift and expand, forming a three-dimensional hologram. The air around him seemed to hum with energy, and Kale felt a strange warmth spread through his body. The hologram resolved into a map, a star chart unlike anything Kale had ever seen. It displayed a vast network of planets, star systems, and pathways, each marked with symbols that seemed to shimmer and dance. At the center of the map was a single, pulsating point, Cryos 7. Kale realized with a start that this was no ordinary map. It was a guide, a key to something far greater than he could comprehend. As he studied the hologram, a small crystalline object materialized beneath the symbol. It was an orb, no larger than his palm, with a surface that seemed to ripple like liquid light. Kale picked it up, feeling a surge of energy course through his veins. The orb responded to his touch, projecting a series of images into his mind. Visions of distant worlds, advanced civilizations, and technologies that defied the laws of physics. Kale's heart raced as he realized what Luma had given him. This was no mere trinket. It was a repository of knowledge, a gift from a species that had mastered the secrets of the universe. The orb was alive, its consciousness intertwined with his own. It spoke to him not in words, but in sensations and emotions, guiding him toward a destiny he could scarcely imagine. Over the next few days, Kale immersed himself in the orb's teachings. It showed him how to harness energy in ways that seemed almost magical, how to manipulate matter at the molecular level, and how to communicate across vast distances without the need for technology. The orb also revealed fragments of Luma's story, a tale of betrayal, survival, and a quest for redemption. Luma, Kale learned, was a member of an ancient and highly advanced species known as the Illyrians. They were explorers and guardians of knowledge, tasked with preserving the balance of the universe. But their civilization had fallen into chaos after a faction of rogue Illyrians sought to use their technology for conquest. Luma had been one of the few who resisted, and for her defiance, she had been hunted and imprisoned. The orb's revelations filled Kale with a sense of purpose. He knew that Luma had chosen him for a reason, and he was determined to honor her trust. Using the knowledge he had gained, he began to transform the facility into a hub of innovation and discovery. The outdated machinery was replaced with devices powered by clean, limitless energy. The drones were upgraded with advanced AI, capable of learning and adapting to their environment. But Kale's newfound abilities did not go unnoticed. The facility's sensors detected a disturbance in the planet's atmosphere, a massive ship descending toward Cryos 7. Kale's heart sank as he realized that Luma's enemies had found him. The rogue Illyrians had come to reclaim what they had lost, and they would stop at nothing to achieve their goals. Kale activated the facility's defenses, using the orb's technology to create a shield around the complex. The rogue Illyrian ship loomed in the sky, its dark, angular hull bristling with weapons. A voice boomed from the ship, speaking in a language Kale couldn't understand. But the intent was clear: surrender or be destroyed. Kale stood his ground, his mind racing with strategies. He knew he couldn't defeat the Illyrians in a direct confrontation, but he had something they didn't: human ingenuity. Using the orb's knowledge, he devised a plan to outwit his enemies. He reprogrammed the drones to mimic the energy signatures of Illyrian technology, creating a decoy that drew the ship's attention away from the facility. As the rogue Illyrians focused on the decoy, Kale launched a counterattack. He used the orb's energy manipulation abilities to disable the ship's weapons and propulsion systems, forcing it to land on the planet's surface. The Illyrians, caught off guard by Kel's resourcefulness, retreated to their ship, but not before delivering a chilling warning. "This is not over, human. The universe will bow to us, and you will be nothing but a memory." Kel watched as the ship disappeared into the sky, his heart heavy with the knowledge that this was only the beginning. The rogue Illyrians would return, and when they did, he would need to be ready. But for now, he had bought himself some time. And perhaps, with the orb's guidance, he could find a way to protect not just himself, but the entire universe. Beyond the frozen horizon, the rogue Illyrian ship vanished into the icy skies of Cryo 7, leaving Kale standing amidst the snow-covered ruins of the facility's outer defenses. His breath came in visible puffs, the cold biting at his skin, but his mind was ablaze with thoughts of what lay ahead. The orb, now a constant presence in his hand, pulsed gently, as if reassuring him. It had become more than a tool. It was a companion, a guide, and a reminder of the responsibility Luma had entrusted to him. Kale knew he couldn't stay on Cryo 7. The rogue Illyrians would return, and next time, they would come prepared. He needed to act, to learn more about the Illyrians and their conflict, and to find allies who could help him stand against the coming storm. The orb's holographic map still hovered in the air, its golden pathways beckoning him toward the stars. With a deep breath, Kale made his decision. He would leave Cryo 7 and follow the map to its destination, a distant star system marked with a symbol that seemed to glow brighter than the others. It was a place the orb called the Nexus, a hub of knowledge and technology, where the remnants of the Illyrian civilization had gathered. Preparing for the journey was no small task. The facility's old transport shuttle, long dormant, had to be repaired and upgraded using the orb's advanced technology. Kale worked tirelessly, his hands moving with a precision and speed he hadn't known he possessed. The orb guided him, showing him how to integrate its energy systems into the shuttle's framework, creating a vessel capable of interstellar travel. As the shuttle's engines roared to life, Kale took one last look at the facility that had been his home for so long. It felt strange to leave, but he knew there was no turning back. The universe was vast, and his destiny lay among the stars. The journey to the Nexus was unlike anything Kale had ever experienced. The shuttle's new propulsion system allowed it to travel at speeds that defied conventional physics, bending space and time to cross vast distances in mere hours. Kale watched through the viewport as stars streaked past, their light blending into a kaleidoscope of colors. The orb, resting on the control panel, pulsed in rhythm with the shuttle's engines, its energy harmonizing with the fabric of space itself. When the shuttle finally emerged from hyperspace, Kale found himself staring at a sight that took his breath away. The Nexus was a massive space station, its structure a blend of organic curves and geometric precision. It floated in the center of a star system, surrounded by a ring of planets and moons that glowed with an otherworldly light. The station itself was alive, its surface shifting and changing as if it were a living organism. Kale guided the shuttle toward the station, his heart pounding with anticipation. As he approached, a beam of light enveloped the shuttle, pulling it gently into a docking bay. The moment the shuttle touched down, the orb's holographic map flared to life, projecting a pathway through the station's labyrinthine corridors. Stepping out of the shuttle, Kale was greeted by a group of beings unlike any he had ever seen. They were Illyrians, their shimmering skin and luminous eyes reminiscent of Luma's, but their expressions were guarded, their movements cautious. One of them, a tall figure with silver markings on their face, stepped forward and spoke in a language Cal couldn't understand. The orb, still in Cal's hand, translated the words into his mind. "You are not one of us. Why have you come here?" Cal held up the orb, its light casting a soft glow on the Illyrians' faces. "I come in peace," he said, his voice steady. "I was given this by one of your kind, a traveler named Luma." She told me to seek out the Nexus, to learn from your people, and to help protect the balance of the universe. The Ilarians exchanged glances, their expressions softening. The one with the silver markings stepped closer, studying Kel with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Luma was a guardian of knowledge, they said, their voice echoing in Kel's mind. If she entrusted you with the Orb of Alar, then you are worthy of our trust. Come, human. There is much we must discuss. Kel followed the Ilarians through the station, marveling at its beauty and complexity. The walls seemed to breathe, their surfaces shifting and changing in response to the presence of those who walked among them. The air was filled with a soft, melodic hum, as if the station itself were alive and aware. They arrived at a vast chamber, its ceiling arching high above like the inside of a cathedral. In the center of the room was a holographic representation of the universe, its countless stars and galaxies swirling in an endless dance. The Ilarians gathered around the hologram, their faces solemn. The rogue Ilarians you encountered are but a fraction of the threat we face, the silver-marked Ilarian said. They seek to control the universe, to bend it to their will. But their actions will only bring destruction. We must stop them, and we cannot do it alone. Kel nodded, his resolve hardening. I'll help you, he said. But I need to understand more. Who are they? What do they want? And how can we stop them? The Ilarians began to explain, their words painting a picture of a civilization torn apart by greed and ambition. The rogue faction, led by a charismatic and ruthless leader named Zoreth, had sought to use the Ilarians' technology to dominate other species and reshape the universe in their image. Luma had been one of the few who resisted, and her capture had been a devastating blow to the resistance. As Kel listened, he felt a growing sense of purpose. He wasn't just fighting for himself or for humanity. He was fighting for the survival of countless worlds and civilizations. The orb, now glowing brighter than ever, seemed to echo his thoughts, its energy resonating with his determination. The Ilarians offered to train Kel, to teach him how to harness the orb's full potential and to prepare him for the battles to come. Kel accepted without hesitation, knowing that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test his limits and push him to become more than he had ever imagined. The dawn of a new era. The battle was over. The rogue Ilarian fleet lay in ruins, their ships scattered like broken toys across the void of space. Kel stood on the bridge of the Nexus's command center, his body weary, but his spirit unbroken. The orb, now glowing with a steady, calming light, rested in his hand, its energy harmonizing with his own. Around him, the Ilarians and their allies, humans, Zorians, and other species who had joined the fight, cheered and embraced, their voices echoing through the chamber. Zoreth, the rogue leader, had been defeated. His final act of defiance, a desperate attempt to destroy the Nexus, had been thwarted by Kel and the orb. In the end, it was not brute force or advanced technology that had won the day, but unity, courage, and the unyielding spirit of those who believed in a better future. As the celebrations continued, Kel stepped away from the crowd, his thoughts turning to Luma. She had been the catalyst for all of this, the one who had set him on this path. He wondered where she was now, whether she had survived the chaos of the war. The orb, sensing his thoughts, pulsed gently, as if to reassure him. A soft voice broke through his reverie. Kel. He turned to see Luma standing before him, her radiant form shimmering with a light that seemed to fill the room. She looked different, stronger, more at peace. Her luminous eyes met his, and for a moment, words were unnecessary. "You did it," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You brought them together. You showed them what it means to fight for something greater than themselves." Kel smiled, a sense of fulfillment washing over him. "I couldn't have done it without you," he replied. "You gave me the tools, the knowledge, and the courage to believe in myself." Luma stepped closer, her presence warm and comforting. "The orb chose you for a reason, Kel. It saw in you what I saw, a spark of hope, a light that could guide others through the darkness. And now, that light will shine across the universe. She reached out, her hand brushing against the orb. It flared brightly, its energy merging with hers. The war is over, but the work is just beginning. The Nexus will be a beacon of peace and knowledge, a place where all species can come together to learn, grow, and heal. And you, Kale, will be its guardian. Cal's heart swelled with emotion. He had come so far from the lonely scientist on Cryo 7, and now he stood at the threshold of a new chapter in his life. He nodded, accepting the responsibility with humility and determination. As Luma's form began to fade, she gave him one last smile. Remember, Kale, the universe is vast and full of wonders. Never stop exploring, never stop learning, and never forget the power of hope. With that, she was gone, her light dissolving into the stars. Kale stood alone for a moment, the orb glowing softly in his hand. Then he turned and rejoined the others, ready to embrace the future. Epilogue. A universe reborn. Years passed, and the Nexus became a symbol of unity and progress. Species from across the galaxy came to share their knowledge, their cultures, and their dreams. Kale, now known as the Guardian of the Nexus, worked tirelessly to ensure that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. The orb remained his constant companion, its light a reminder of the journey that had brought him here. Together, they explored the mysteries of the universe, uncovering ancient secrets and forging new alliances. And though Luma was no longer by his side, her presence was felt in every corner of the Nexus. Her legacy lived on in the hearts of those she had inspired, and in the light of the orb that continued to guide Kel on his path. As Kel stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars, he felt a deep sense of peace. The universe was vast and full of challenges, but it was also filled with hope, beauty, and endless possibilities. And so, the story of Kale and the orb became a legend, a tale of courage, unity, and the enduring power of the human spirit. It was a story that would be told for generations, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, light could always be found.